Welcome to Your American Dream. I'm Manisha Jennings, and today we're diving into the power of transformation with Jing Lauengco, whose journey from immigrant to chief optimist proves that sometimes our biggest setbacks become our greatest comebacks. Get ready to discover how to turn your someday into day one. Welcome, Jing. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad and honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan and I really appreciate your work in the world and being with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about Jing. There's a lot, I know, but tell us a
Yes.
little bit about your journey from Philippines to America to, building your business, your
Mhm.
marriage, your journey as a cancer survivor,
Yes.
and so much more.
Oh, well, again, I appreciate you sharing these lived experiences of so many entrepreneurs who happen to be women who happen to come from an immigrant journey. So this is really exciting to share this space with you. I was born in Manila on Christmas Day, 7:30 in the morning, and I was late. And I just remember when I was very young, really questioning identity because of this experience. And maybe you feel the same way as well, Anisha. So I always knew there were two places that I called home and that I really always had a global view because of the shared immigrant first generation experience. So my father was a doctor. He did his residency in Toledo, Ohio. And I always thought to myself, why Ohio? Because it's snowy, it's cold, there are cornfields there. This is so far away from the rice fields where my parents grew up, or really where, my ancestors grew up, honestly. So we had relatives in San Francisco and California and LA. And I just remember thinking, again, I always had this toggle switch, Anisha. What if we ended up living in California versus Ohio? What if we had stayed in Manila? So I believe that perhaps all of your listeners also have this perspective. There's always this sort of revolving door, sliding door around the kind of lives that we could live, and really understanding the sacrifices that our parents made on our behalf. I would say that's also a big part of my journey and story, is really appreciating and thinking about every immigrant story. Every family had to take this moment of truth to decide, what am I looking forward to and what am I leaving behind? So, all that to say, I have also been very fascinated with storytelling and stories and how we show up in the world and the family legacies that we bring with us. So, that's a lot of the work that I do as a brand and business strategist. I work with executive and entrepreneur coaches to really think about what shows up when you show up online and offline, and also how do you step into that next chapter and new beginning. And it could be a setback or a comeback or a never going back. We've all been through that with the pandemic, and also this new world where we're really trying to figure out how to show up. So that's a long story, but it's one that I really, I hope that when I share my story and the way that you're sharing everyone's story, Anisha, it's really inspiring, and it helps the next generation to step into a new now and be really modern in terms of their approach and understanding the power of their own story, their own voice, because a lot of times there's a lot of cultural, societal pressures. And I hope that, with you together, we're going to be able to share different kinds of stories that feel more modern and that will make a difference in people being brave and fierce and using their voice and visibility for good.
Absolutely, indeed. That the whole objective
Yeah.
is, just to give people this platform to
Mhm.
share their story and encourage our younger generation to be fearless and
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, hopefully.
Mhm.
So, tell us a little bit about your um, initial journey, like when you came, what triggered your move from the Philippines to America, and
Sure.
what was your initial few years like? What were the emotions? What was going on then?
Sure. So I was fairly young. I could say a couple of things from that. So my father actually, I forgot about this. We lived in Michigan first, but still in the Midwest. And I remember feeling like I was always the other. I wasn't quite, I had never felt Filipino enough, but also American enough. And I really wasn't quite sure what my story was in Asia. Also, being born on Christmas, I feel like I was born into an identity crisis because,
Oh.
you're not the Filipino family, very religious, where if you're stateside, there was all your American friends had so many toys and so many, things. And we really didn't have that. We came from very humble beginnings. So I think that was also this construct in my mind around have and have nots. Why? I was always questioning, like, why was I born on Christmas? Am I a holy child? And I also was almost named Jesusa, Jesus with an A, by my titas, which is auntie in Filipino. But my dad started calling me Jing for Jingle Bells. So it was just this. So I never was. The other thing too, Anisha, I was never a girl name or a boy name. I was a onomatopoeia. I was a sound and energy. So I was always thinking about identity. I was all growing up in this rural, I guess, the neighborhoods, that was the only Jing. So I used to feel really uncomfortable when I'd have to say my name and my first name and last name and have to pronounce it and then explain all the things. But so I think part of it is it made me realize every word is a story and that I could have all these identities. I could be Jing, Jingle Bells. My real name is Maria Christina, which is very Roman Catholic. So I was always really fascinated as a kid around anyone who had a name that was not, which was the other. So I was just drawn to that all the time. Now, I used to feel a little insecure, but now I see it more as a defining. I had to use my voice, speak up, really step into that story of my name, which is really a living story. And at the time, now if you think about it, it's personal branding. So there wasn't a lot of, and perhaps you might feel this way too, there wasn't a lot of cultural pride per se or celebration. I think we were trying as a family to kind of assimilate. And so that was always a mixed message too. So I believe that it was part of this experience as an immigrant is this idea of unpacking and reordering what makes sense, what are the mirrors that we're holding up to ourselves. And so that is both societal, cultural. And so then I got really interested in pop culture and this idea of narrative, your narrative arc and what that means. So that's what I would say. I mean, I have some very distinct memories as a kid. And I had a very vivid imagination. So I would just lay in bed and picture things on the ceiling. And I believe that that's really where the stories began. I think I wrote about this in a podcast, my Supernova podcast. I actually remember having and your listeners might know it, it was this prayer and it would scare me because it's like, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I you might die at the end. And it just was like, I can't sleep now. So I made up my own prayer, actually. Like I was probably 3 or 4. And it was just this idea of, I thought I saw the magic or power of, you know, just telling yourself new stories. So yeah, I can say it super fast and it goes, I can say it super, super fast. So it's funny that in my head, I never wrote it down. And actually this podcast that I just did, it was the first time I shared it with the world. I don't think my mom even knows it, but yeah. And a lot of that is when I was younger also, probably in, I think when I was very young, there used to be these UNICEF like kids around the world that needed help. And I remember holding the box in my hand and looking at these brown faces and thinking, are they from the Philippines? They look like me. So I think that's another thing is seeking connection, seeking, I guess, a shared humanity. So I would say being an immigrant, it really made me feel like I looked at the world as really I just always felt like it was connected and interconnected. So I think that's why I became an entrepreneur because I just never felt like I really quite fit in to any kind of box or even our family. All my American friends would go to their grandparents for Thanksgiving and we would have rice and pancit and lumpia and the turkey and like lumpy gray potatoes. God bless my mom because she only did it once a year. So it was always I'm always like this toggle switch of okay, it's this, but is it supposed to be this? I'm kind of in this gray area. And so that's how I came up with Other Brown Girl, which is a blog. And I've just always been fascinated with stories, especially immigrant stories and family journeys.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much in there.
Yeah.
And I love how, you know, your business now is a reflection of who you were and it has just evolved. You're just,
Hmm.
defining it, creating it now, but it's always been there in
Yes.
your heart, in your mind, in your soul. That's amazing.
Thank
So
you.
tell us a little bit about, you did mention you're a cancer survivor, and
Yes.
during COVID, it was a really rough time. Tell us a little bit about how that impacted your life, your business. How
Sure.
did it shape you as a person?
Sure. So, number one, I just want to offer to all of your listeners and to you, Anisha, I think we did talk about in the prep. I hope that this is your sign to go get checked, to put yourself on your own priority list. We do have history on both sides of my family, and I have lost some beloved aunts to cancer, and all of us have been touched in some way, shape, or form by cancer. So I think it's very easy for women, especially entrepreneurs for sure, just taking care of all the things and forgetting that we are the power source, the energy, and to protect that. So I think part of it was you're always giving and just trying to juggle all the things, and I hadn't really, I guess I hadn't put myself on the priority list as I should, but I decided to go get checked. I got a second opinion, and the first hospital said, I think you're fine, come back in a year in July. And for some reason there was some internal voice that I listened to, and I'm very grateful I did. So I went to the Cleveland Clinic. They really saved me. It was a 3D mammogram and a second opinion, and we moved very aggressively. So I still remember, it was Halloween. I went to get just a standard checkup, and it was one of those days where it's like a Netflix show. They pull you in and say, okay, we need to take more tests. And it turned into like a 9 or 10 hour day. So it was like a very aggressive checkup. I'm very grateful to my doctors and my care team and my friends who stayed with me during that time. And yeah, they found two tumors here and one here. Originally, it just makes you also think about identity, Anisha, right? Like defining motherhood, womanhood, this season of our life. And I would say it put me in a club I didn't want to be a part of, but now it brought me closer to humanity. It was a stage 1 cancer, breast cancer, and I decided to be very aggressive, and I did a double mastectomy. And so it was this journey of December 2019 was when I remember Thanksgiving is when I scheduled the surgeries. December 19th was the first surgery, and March 5th, a week before the national lockdown, was my second surgery, which was the last surgery. I was supposed to do 3 surgeries. So it was this absolute heartbreaking time in the world for so many reasons, socially, politically. And I would watch, I recovered from home. And had I waited even one more week, I might not have been able to have the surgery because it was considered elective, because an elective surgery, because everyone, the clinic were at the time, it's so heartbreaking. I know I have friends who've lost loved ones during that time, and, having the respirator, it just was it just, even thinking about it now, 5 years later, takes my breath away. It's hard to sometimes read my blogs and journals. So anyway, I was recovering. I call it my comeback bed from cancer, and I had a lot of time on my hands. So I couldn't stop thinking about this trip I had taken with my mom and my aunts and my tita and my tito to the Philippines in 2017. So this is 2 weeks after, at the time, President Trump's first presidency. So I remember going, we were trying to figure out what to do with my mom's house at the time. And I knew she was older. This was going to be the last trip. So this was before AI. This was before, so I just took a journal and wrote as much as I could about that trip. And it was 10 days, and it's on my blog, otherbrowngirl.com. And I hadn't really thought about that blog for a while. And so for my cancer bed, I was writing about this 2017 trip, and I also applied for a grant. I'm very grateful to the Cleveland Leadership Center. There was a grant that was out, and I applied without really realizing I had to do a pitch, like a I guess, submission. And I didn't read the fine text, and I qualified. So I actually ended up winning for technology innovation. And then it was also under social change. So what I did was I created a blog based on all the writing that I had done from my cancer comeback bed. And I originally wanted to make that a memoir. So that kind of put me on this journey talking about, I guess, all of me, the real me, because maybe you feel this way. I'd love to hear. Sometimes when you are an immigrant, you're really trying to figure out what that means in a space, especially now. So I applaud you for your work today and the voices that you're bringing forward. I'm very honored to be here, and I'm stunned at the way the world is, I guess, mirroring us. 5 years later, I'm trying to make sense of that. And the writing helps, the podcasting helped. So what I was going to say was I started this blog in 2022 based on this funding and seed money, which I was so grateful for. It was around Citizens Bank Change, and I was very grateful. And because it was the pandemic, they recorded us, and so all of a sudden there was all this I guess digital footprint out in the world around this pitch, and gratefully winning this technology and innovation piece. So it just put me in a completely different direction. Originally, I in a past life I had an ad agency and a design firm, so I still have this sort of design thinking lens, but the storytelling, really, it was like a current that moved me forward, and it was a lot around mission driven social good work. And it was because of cancer. So I want to say this started this whole idea around, again, identity. Who am I now? What shows up when I show up? Do I show all of me? Do I show this part of me? Do I talk about cancer? And so, yeah, so that's really what happened. And I would say, as it relates to cancer, there's more to it, but this was during the time we actually, it's crazy, but it's hard to talk about it past tense. But at the time, there were protests here in the city, and the ad agency was actually, is it flash bomb? Someone threw a hydrant in. So it's just,
Oh,
we were always sort of like right on the edge in terms of
yeah.
everything that happened socially, politically. Actually, I felt like I was living in a show, honestly. I couldn't believe that that was happening. And I'm still heartbroken about it, but I think it defined all of us in terms of what matters, who matters, and the time that we have with each other and how we show up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. This is so hard.
Sure.
I'm sure this is hard for you to talk about and go back and think about it, but kudos to you for taking this setback
Yeah.
in your life and making it something valuable, not only for yourself, but to people around you and to the
Thank
brown girl
you.
community. So, thank you so much for showing up and helping others show up. So, tell us a little bit about your next thing now workshops that you do. How did that
Sure.
come to being, and what do you do in there?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So I know we did this pre-production talk or podcast talk, and I share that I actually am in a new chapter myself. I in a past life was, again, an ad agency partner, and then also design firm founder with, at the time, my life partner, and I have since um, become independent, both personally and professionally. And it was really for my own health, because, how would I say it? It's hard to say, but I stepped away from a marriage that left me feeling unsafe and unwell. And so it was a big step. And I essentially, after this happened, I put down the podcast mic. I kind of took a break on blogging. The world was different. I didn't know how to talk about myself. And my podcast became Next Thing with Jing, because I would always experiment. And at the time, I did Other Brown Girl, the blog. And then I thought, I can talk faster than I write. So then it became Next Thing with Jing. And I was interviewing all my change agent friends, other brown girls, but also change agent friends who happen to be, non other brown girls. But I kind of put it on hold, the podcast on the blog, as I went through this personal transformation and really healing journey. I created Wednesdays for Women mainly because I wanted a safe circle where people could hold space for each other in this in between. I always, people would ask me, like, what are you doing now, Jing? Or people would come up to me and say, I need to figure out my next thing. So that's why I started to this Next Thing with Jing. And so what I did was I really expanded the platform of Next Thing with Jing and decided to do these circles for women who are next thinging it. They're not quite, they might they might think they want to be an entrepreneur, or maybe they just had a baby, or maybe they went through a huge healthcare transition or life transition like myself. And it's networking, but not that word. So it's really a supportive group. I think we've had over 100 women so far this year. So I do the first Wednesday is a coffee. The third Wednesday is a mocktail in the evening at 6:30. And it's essentially, I was having all these wonderful women reach out to me wanting to connect, wanting to have coffee. I couldn't keep it all straight. So I thought, okay, let's just kind of consolidate this because I want you to meet I wanted all these women to meet each other because I kept saying, probably feel this way, Anisha. You meet all these incredible women and you're thinking, you know what? I'd really love it if you met my friend so and so. So that's how it started. And I will share with you, I'm very grateful to my friend Molly Chirasso, who is she founded Verbena, which is a mocktail cafe and bar. And it's lovely. We talk about, it's like this corner in Cleveland. Come on out. It's West 29th. And I was really deeply impacted by just what was happening in the world. So we decided to kick off the series, and it started January 22nd. I started it sort of 2 days after, the world changed, and it was 8 degrees in Cleveland, Ohio, and 25 people signed up, and they came. I think we had 20 that came actually. But so we've been doing this on the regular, and it has been fantastic. And so what's happening is, I believe it's what we all need, is the safe circle where you talk about hard things, real things, human things, messy things. And it helped me find my voice. And I started a podcast again. If you listen to my podcast, what I tell my older self, it's very raw and real. And I really put myself out there because I know myself. I have been, I am a story of my words being weaponized against me, healthcare as a woman being weaponized against me. And so if you listen to that podcast, you can hear it. And that was the first time. It's actually very raw to hear my voice. But I think every time I started to use my voice with a podcast and show up at these circles, these wonderful women, I feel like it's nothing else. There's nothing else like it. So I offer all women, it's kind of like a book club, but without the book. And it's basically, we go around the circle and talk about what you're next thinking. And then also too, we talk about, I like to say, we start the circle of obviously introducing ourselves, and we share a need, a seed, something you're growing, and a lead. So that's a way to do it. And another thing that we've practiced, which I saw this in another group that I was in, and sometimes it's nice to be able to go around a circle and say, if you hear someone say fill in the blank, please refer them to me. So it's a way for us to practice talking about wherever we are in our journey and story. And it doesn't have to just be about entrepreneurship. It could really be anything. It might be signing up for a class, um, you know, I don't know, your health journey, any of the things. So that's really what Next Thing Now is around this platform. But I also expand that to executive and entrepreneur workshops. So they're 2 hour, half day, full day, and 30-day 360 resets. And it's really to get clarity, connection, confidence, and build community, whatever that looks like. It can be personally, professionally, or organizationally. So that's a long answer, but I really love this work and I'm very committed to it. And I'm starting to use these same workshops for high school entrepreneur programs. And I'm very grateful to say one of the programs that I did this year, I've been doing it for the last 4 years with my friend Greg Perry. We raised over $250,000 for facility dogs in the hospitals in Northeast Ohio. And that was with 40 students from 10 area high schools, basically using some of the frameworks around telling your story, building your brand workshop. So I really believe that if we can find a way to talk about ourselves, to speak about ourselves and show up for ourselves and others, that there's a lot of magic that can be created in this modern day and age.
Absolutely. That's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
sure, I hope if somebody's listening to this from Ohio, that they come and participate in one of your workshops. So is this just local, or do you plan to expand it to, like, have a virtual so a lot more people
Sure.
can benefit from it?
Yeah.
What is the plan there?
Right. Well, that's a great question. So right now, I think, as I mentioned, I do love Cleveland. There's so much I'm very grateful. I know there are lots of cities in the world, but I do believe that there's a Midwest nice component, and Clevelanders have so much grit and heart and gratitude. So, all that to say, I would love to expand it. I think in person means something to us, though I love that we're doing this because otherwise we couldn't meet, right? So I'm very grateful. So right now I'm test driving in person only because I believe there's an intimacy that's happening. And like, I really believe creating this sort of safe space for women. And it's one of those things where it's very, how would you call it? I'm piloting it still. So it's not like it's formal. I think that's part of it. You can pop in, pop out. You can have a coffee, you can have a cocktail, mocktail. And I would like to eventually, this is why I'm doing this with my friend Molly. Also, there's Emily Tansky from Drink Flourish. They do these wonderful non-alcoholic dinners for like 30 to 50, and they're in beautiful spaces like out in a field or all these magical places in Cleveland. They're actually doing a wonderful program called Feed the Resistance, where it's really gathering change makers around the city, not just women. And weekly on Thursdays, kind of talking about like how do we gather. We've talked about how revolutions begin at the dinner table. So this is a different kind of, in my opinion, activation and activism, but it's really advocacy, advocating for other women. So right now it's in Cleveland, but I would love to expand it. And we've talked about expanding it, in the Philippines. I have a lot of big plans. So when that's mapped out completely, I'll be sure to check in with you, Anisha. Thank you for asking.
Yes, we would definitely have a part two of this
Yes,
and
I
love
love
to
it.
know what else is going on. That's
Love it.
amazing. So, tell us a little bit about your design mapping method.
Sure, sure. So I don't know about you, Anisha, but I'm very visual. And so, the world with AI, the age of AI, it's just, there are a lot of question marks, right? A lot of question marks. So for me, I still believe it's about using your voice and really what is your vision for yourself. So I would say sort of the four areas that I needed to work on were clarity, calm first, clarity, confidence, then connection, both to myself and really what I wanted to do next. And so I started to do they're workshops around telling your story and building your brand. And I like to gamify this. So we move fast. It's almost like a design sprint. There's story prompts. One of the methods that I like to work with is called who, what, where, when, then how. A lot of times people say, I need to get out there more, whatever that means, right? But a lot of the work of what we do is for our clients is really deciding who are you not, who are you becoming, and what is that 2.0 version. So that's a lot of the work that I'm doing, and we do it through workshops, and it's so fun. It's my favorite thing to do. And I like to also ask the clients or any teams that I work with. I've done it for board retreats and team building. It's so much fun. But I would ask you this, Anisha. Like, these are the three things. One is what shows up when you show up. Where are you the only? How are you the only? Who's the other when you have a choice? And what's the one thing people want to know about you or should know about you? So we do these exercises to really think about, that's a really good question. So, sometimes people start with this mission, vision, values. I like to create a manifesto with gusto that feels like, okay, if someone runs into me at Whole Foods or Target, what am I going to say? Like, what are you up to? A lot of times too, this next thing now, some people are in transition and they talk about like, I'm an accountant. So I try to have them think about a way to shift their weight and say, I'm an accountant, but I'll tell you what I'm really excited and delighted about. I'm doing this thing. So that's another thing I should also mention. When I started the blog, when I started the podcast, when I started this next thing with Jing, I just would share with people, I'm trying this thing. I don't know where it's going, but it's been really fun. And I would love to share this with you. And so it takes off all the pressure and I just thingify everything. So that's sort of what these workshops are. I mean, they're very hands-on, interactive. They move fast. And yeah, it's what I wished I had when I was in high school. And I also believe they work in a 360 way because really all of us are storytellers from the very beginning. And I want especially young brown and black girls to know that their story might not line up like others, but that it is their superpower. And I want to make sure that they are always main character energy. I think what I learned was often to kind of move back, fade back. And I think that's true of mothers too, in some cases, not all. I had to learn this is you're always sort of the stage director and kind of having everyone else in the spotlight. And there are a lot of blind spots in that, right? Because part of the value is selflessness, forgiveness, kindness. The moment that was weaponized against me, I just looked at everything with a new fierceness. And I hope that every listener, every entrepreneur to me is a change agent in their lives, professionally and personally. And I want more young brown girls, other brown girls, to see themselves first as a leader, then as a female, or, and then brown or black or culturally. But also, I work with a lot of non binary clients. So it's like this idea of the other. That's something else that I should say. I do a lot of work in the LGBTQ plus space because they thought other, we all have felt othered in some way. So to me, part of the workshops is really having a way to look at ourselves and look at every single world, starting with your name. That's one of the icebreakers is you look at your name and your nickname, and we just gamify it. So anyway, all that to say, it's remarkable and breathtaking to see what is unearthed, and it's super fun. It's very effervescent. Everything bubbles up, and by the end of it, it's almost like we're all old friends. And it's very powerful and personal, and it's my favorite thing to do. One of my favorite things to do to see people see themselves the way that I see them or other people see them when they step into that story. And another thing that I do a lot too, which is fun, is I make sure that people record themselves in voice memos to hear their voice and the energy, because I am Jing and onomatopoeia. I know we are all energy. So I really think about brands and stories as energy, and like how you stack your story from a founder story to an origin story, a customer story, and then the brand blocks are really sort of that visual piece. But we help everyone think about a voice identity and a visual identity, and think about a new now. And for all of us, that's the age of
Wow.
AI. So that's a lot to unpack, but it's sort of organic and fluid, but it's super fun. It's like tossing the brand ball back and forth, tossing the story ball, and then thinking about AI, like the magic of AI and the power of AI to help humanity. Because this is something I do want to emphasize. I'm moving more into AI because we need more leaders who look and lead like us, Anisha, in the tech space. And I'm grateful to you in the tech corner for being that leader and example, because there are other brown girls from other parts of the world that need to see what we are doing and how we are door openers, not gatekeepers, right? And I think that women specifically, and women like you, this podcast, is beautiful American Dream podcast, is actually a living example of that. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much. That you shared so much. There's just so much to unpack there. You are such high energy.
Oh my
So,
goodness. Thank you. Thank you. I'm a
so
very, I'm very fast talker too. I'm trying to work on that, and hearing ourselves on a podcast also helps. But I so appreciate the work you're doing, and it's very inspiring to me. And the story lives on, right? There's so many women like you and me who deserve their voices to be heard. And I appreciate the important work that you're doing. And I'm a big fan, and I'm really,
thank you.
really
I appreciate it.
grateful. Yes, yes.
Thank you. So, in your workshops, if
Mhm.
somebody wants to work with you, besides, I know that, it's local. So if
Yeah.
somebody wants to work with you and if they want to, talk about their brand or revamp their brand, how
Yeah.
can they work with you?
Sure. So that's a good question. I'm really excited to be doing these. I call it 360 reset refresh workshops. And I am, right now I'm starting to book. So, but please feel free to DM me and LinkedIn and link in any of your listeners. So I think I might have mentioned I'm starting to do sort of a 2 hour, 4 hour, or 8 hours. Sometimes we do a 360 30-day reset. And I'm very flexible, obviously, like you. Entrepreneurs are so busy and we're all in different time zones. what is really fun is we could actually I do virtual work. I have some clients that are in South Carolina, like all over. And what I like to do is go ahead and do these workbooks, and they're so fun. And I like to do this also for my corporate clients because we could do that at the beginning of the year, mid year. And essentially, it's great for onboarding new employees too, to think of, okay, what is the perception? Do you take a pulse check? So as it relates to how we could work together, like I mentioned, I'll do like a sort of a 2-3 hour reset review. So we could take a look at your digital footprint, answer any questions, kind of an open Q&A, and we'll decide what that looks like, which I call sort of an awareness moment. And then we can move on to like a half day. It could be a 2-hour workshops additionally. And that would be really around alignment and trying to figure out, okay, I think this is where I want to go. Let's map this out. And then we can also do what I would say like this 8-hour package, which would be another 4 hours. And that's really around amplifying and activation. So sometimes what will happen is I will, it's around timing, right? Sometimes we do all of it. And I've had retainer clients, which is generally where we do the deep work for like 2 or 3 years. And I love that. So we pick a day, we have coffee. If it's, you're out in California, we'll do it around your time frame. But typically what I'll do is we'll book it, block it, prepay it, and then boom, we go. And it's like, it's a fast turnaround for fast results. So that if that's your vibe, then I think, we could create that momentum really around a personalized journey for yourself and what makes sense for your busy entrepreneur schedule. I'm here for it. I'm really excited and I love it. And I'm getting ready to sort of update my landing page. So I'll be sure to share that when it's ready. So we're just about there, but feel free to DM me, link into me on LinkedIn. And that's how you and I met, Anisha. So I appreciate
Yes.
finally reaching out.
Yes, indeed. So, for our listeners, all of this information will be in our show notes. So, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I would like you to leave us with a couple pieces of advice that you wish you had when you were starting your journey as an entrepreneur and your lessons.
Yes. So this is a great question. Okay. So one of the things I would say is to know your power and stay in your power, which is your story. I'm going to say that one more time. To know your power, stay in your power, and that is your story. So many of us as entrepreneurs, as women, I would say, as caregivers, we see our worth as how much we can give, our sacrifice, especially as immigrant children. I believe that all of us are carrying this idea of the American dream and the Filipino dream and the ancestral dream. And it is a sacred space for each and every one of us. So it's hard to remember that you have your own voice, that you have your own vision for what the future looks like. And so that's what I would offer. The second thing is, and I'm doing this with my son who's 18, I guess non-traditional, whatever that looks like. What I realized, it was always just I was born an entrepreneur and so was he. And sometimes traditional frameworks, traditional school, traditional ways of doing things, we actually are the ones that are going to hold a special kind of magic because we can imagine the future. And there's a lot of the work that I'm doing right now as a strategist for an AI developer, and everything is possible. So the last thing I would say is I coined myself a chief optimist because that was the only way that I could next thing it, next think it, next do it, next believe it, and then design it. I believe strongly that I became sick because I believe someone else's stories about me and the way that things were weaponized against me. It will never happen to me again. I used writing, podcasting to hear my own voice and see my own thoughts. And it was a daily practice and flex to come back all the way stronger, to rebuild. I was heartbroken, but I really believe that I was broken open. So that's another thing is anytime you're negative with yourself, let's say negative, let's say you go sideways. See what I did just there? I would always next thing my word. I imagine an arrow. So, I'm divorced. And honestly, it was heartbreaking. My mom had a hard time talking about it. So that story held this weight for her and it felt like shame. I didn't want that. I see it as strength, as truth. So again, every time now I call myself independent, free agent, right? And so again, this is rebuilding my life, my body with cancer. Instead of a deathbed, I called it a comeback bed. I called myself a thriver because survivors just didn't feel right. Kind of like the prayer I rewrote in my head. So that's another thing I would offer to you is to think about every word, every story. That's why I called it Other Brown Girl. There was so much to unpack in that. So I was really thinking about words as wisdom, as vessels. Like it carries volume and velocity, and it's like a sonar signal that's gently moving you forward. So that's what I would offer to you is stay in your power, stay in your story, keep writing new ones, hearing yourself speak, practice in your phone and a voice memo. And I want to have you hear and feel your power. So many women don't show up for themselves online and they feel like the current is moving so fast. Even with AI, I offer to you to remember your 5-year-old self, your younger self. That's another episode I would offer. You can listen to that and really think about that. So anyway, that's where it's at.
Thank you so much. Well, I feel like we definitely need a part two for you. You have so much to share, and everything is just so high energy. It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with us, your passion, your wisdom, and also the vulnerable parts of your life with us. That is very special, and we're so honored. I'm so honored that you chose to share your journey with me. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Anisha, and I'm looking forward to hearing more brave storytellers on your podcast. And it's a modern American dream. That's another thing.
Yes.
The dream of our parents. We are rewriting and reshaping the American dream. And I am so grateful to be part of your story in this podcast. So
Thank you.
I can't wait to hear more and follow along on your journey. And I look forward to meeting all your listeners. I'm sure they just have been empowered because of your story and your words. I appreciate you, Anisha.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As we wrap up this conversation with Jing, remember that your next thing is always one strategic story away. If you're ready to transform your own vision into a reality through a website that captures your unique narrative, I'd like to help bring that to life through custom WordPress or Squarespace websites. This is Anisha Jennings reminding you that sometimes our greatest transformations begin with simply saying yes to our next thing. Until next time.